Hi, Dr. Alex here, and welcome to Beyond the Horizon. This may well be the shortest Beyond the Horizon ever, because none of the regulars who have been able to attend here in the past are here. So it's just me at the moment, although there is a comment. I should have a look at that. Hang on a second. Hello, close up. No, apparently it was just automatic comments from StreamYard saying you're live. Well, thanks, great. So yeah, not much more I can do on my own talking to myself. I mean, I kind of did all the talking to myself when I added the little snippets into the video, talking about, for example, the brilliant tests they did showing metacognition in bonobos, dolphins, and related, they did similar tests in corvids, although they're slightly different setup to the bonobos and the bonobos and the dolphins. I did love that, but I just go on about this a little bit since I have nothing else to do. I did love the bonobo and corvid, bonobo and dolphin tests, because the bonobos were set tests, I think, where they had to recognize visual differences. I can't remember exactly what the thing they were asked to tell the difference between was, but it was a visual and then the dolphins had to hear a difference in tone, because dolphins got very, very keen sense of hearing, turns out, what with all that communication under the water. So they had to tell whether or not two tones were the same or if they were different. And what the researchers did for dolphins was they obviously started them off with easy questions and then made the tones progressively closer and closer in pitch until there were points where the dolphins couldn't easily distinguish between the two tones. And initially they would make mistakes, and when they made a mistake, if they got something right, by the way, they got a tasty treat, a food prize. If they got it wrong, there was a delay before they were allowed to have the next question and try and win a new prize. Then they introduced this pass button, which meant that they wouldn't get the treat, but they also wouldn't get the delay. And the dolphins, when they figured out that if they made a mistake, they weren't going to get the prize, they were able to use the pass button when they weren't sure, which was just sheer brilliance. Such a simplistic idea of a test, and yet it showed something so fundamental to the workings of the brain in these creatures, that the creature had to be aware that it was not sure. It had to know that it did not know, which is a really sort of fundamental philosophical idea. But just in this basic context, it just showed that they were aware of their own thought processes. They knew when they did not know, which was just like mind-blowingly profound of such a simple experiment. Similarly, the bonobos had to tell the difference between two colors, I think it was, that were similar. Now, if I remember rightly, am I right in this? I think I am. Bonobos and, in fact, all old world chimps, I think, or at least the great apes, have the same color vision we do. So they have the same ability to distinguish red, green, blue, at least. So they were shown, I think, different swatches, if you like, of different colors, and they had to say if they were the same or different. And again, the researchers progressively made those color swatches closer and closer in color and shade, probably, until the bonobos, again, weren't sure if they were the same or different. And again, they got food if they got it right, they got a time delay if they got it wrong, and then the pass button was introduced, and the bonobo, I think it was bonobos, yeah, bonobos very quickly got the idea that, well, if I'm not sure, I better press this pass button and I don't have to wait for the next go in the game and the potential to win a prize. So again, beautifully simple concept, an incredibly powerful discovery and outcome as a result of this experiment. So yeah, I just cannot go on enough about this amazing metacognition experiment. And people might argue for whatever reason that this isn't truly showing metacognition, but I would love to see in the comments why it doesn't show metacognition. I'm sure there may well be good scientific reasons for that. And if anyone would like to join me in the chat and argue against it, that would be awesome too. So far, I have been spinning plates for 6 minutes. I will continue to spin plates for another 4 minutes, and then I might just go and have a late tea. For the translation of the non-English, that means another meal. It doesn't just mean me drinking tea and then being unable to go to sleep. So what was I going to say? Okay, I've done the corvids. No, I'm not the corvids, actually. I've done the bonobos, the dolphins, the corvid tests. I'm having to do this from memory from an article I no longer have access to, and it's very hard to find the article online as well. I tried. Believe me, that's how I got the similar one from Scientific American, but it wasn't the same quite. And it was, I think, published a little bit later, lacked a lot of the details of the earlier article. Anyway, corvids, though, they did experiments where some crows, I think it was crows, were kept in a cage, but it had see-through surroundings, and some crows were kept outside. And some of the crows inside were busy hiding food, like making little holes or putting them behind trunks and covering them with stuff. And it did that to hide, it was hiding food from the others in the enclosure who were with it. But it could also see that there were ones outside the enclosure beyond the fence. Then the researchers let in the ones that were beyond the enclosure, where the crow hadn't bothered to hide what it was doing from those because it thought it was separated by the fence, by the mesh, if you like. And suddenly, when they went in, and those crows did see what it was doing, when they headed for where it had hidden the nuts, I suspect it was, that crow then got very irate and agitated, and then went and dived in to intervene. Whereas when crows that it knew were in the same enclosure as it and knew it hadn't seen it, wandered past where it had hidden the food, it didn't react at all. It was like, oh yeah, nothing to see there. You just keep on your merry way. But that was the best I can remember about the corvid experiment, which was brilliant. Again, very simple experiment to show that something with an incredibly tiny brain, I mean, crow brain is talking about the size of a large walnut, I suspect, had a concept of mind, of what other things were thinking, what other crows in this case were thinking, and what they knew, and it obviously knew that they knew something. So it had a concept of them knowing stuff, which is pretty amazing and powerful. Anyway, I have now yammered on for 8 minutes. 2 more minutes of me juggling and spinning plates, and then I'm going to call it a night. Anything else came up in that? Oh, yeah, the last thing. Talking to myself. The last thing that was really amazing was the Don't Eat the Marshmallows experiment, which, by the way, follow the TED link in the useful links, and you'll see another person talking about that experiment, which was conducted in the 70s, but he did a repeat later, I think the 80s or the 90s, just repeating it in his own locale, showing how children were able or not so able to resist eating a marshmallow or a sweet, and how this had profound implications for their future success. Way better predictor than most psychological tests can provide usually. So yeah, strong results showing that if you can resist the marshmallow for a matter of seconds, you will do better in future life. It seems, either academically or fiscally, making money. Those two things are not necessarily linked, as you can probably tell. I'm a very poor academic in so many ways. No, that's not my point. Whereas those who, the even more disturbing side of this test is those who are unable to resist going for the marshmallow, like that girl in the video we saw who just went whoa, and ate it straight away and then hammering on the bell immediately, obviously expecting more marshmallows to magically appear in front of her. People who did poorly in that test often did extremely badly in future life, to the extent that they were often found to be very poor at impulse control, frequently ended up the wrong side of the law, and having many problems with their future life, so their social life, if you like, because I mean, all of life is social, but to the extent that they often ended up being lawbreakers and ended up in prison. So yeah, worryingly powerful predictor, that marshmallow experiment. But anyway, I invite you to go and do some more research, because this is not my field of expertise. I'm spinning plates and juggling while knowing nothing about what's going on. Hello, Willow Wainwright has a question. I can see your question if you'd like to ask it. I can try and answer it, bearing in mind I'm not an expert, as I just said 5 seconds ago. I'm going to patiently wait for the question. I bet the question is, what are you doing here talking to yourself? I suspect. World's longest drum roll, please. Oh, of course, I had no one to ask, is my microphone working? So I can only hope that it is. Oh, of course, I had no one to ask, is my microphone working? Yeah, it was working. Ah, I have a question, Doc. Okay, I'm waiting. I'm all yours. You have my undivided attention. Ba, 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 ba. Doodle-doo-doo-doo. Doodle-doo-doo-doo. I'm so keen to see what this question is. What can I say in the meantime while I'm waiting here? Sad tales about my laptop. I'm still waiting for my new solid state drive to arrive, so it's still way slower than it is when it's got an SSD in it. This is the one I'm talking about, my main laptop. The one I'm currently talking to is my audio laptop. It's actually a less good computer than my main one. It's a ThinkPad E15 Edge, but and it's got a very old i7 in it, dual core, I suspect, whereas this one's got a quad core in it, a newer, better i7 anyway. But that thing is struggling away, acting as a StreamYard link at the moment. But it does actually; it's very good at recording sound. That's why I still have it, still use it. The main reason is it's got really good sound quality for recording, whereas this thing obviously has worse shielding for whatever reason than the Edge one over there, and so it doesn't record sound as well. Oh, hello. Oh, still no question. I got overexcited for no good reason. All I can think about now is a bacon sandwich. I suspect I will eat a bacon sandwich after I've terminated the stream. Ooh, I was looking over my shoulder, that shoulder, at the wolves peeking over the back of the sofa behind me. And it reminds me how dogs are remarkably intelligent in terms of, as the video showed, picking up on our visual cues, knowing that again, having a concept of mind, knowing that when we're pointing, we're not interested in our finger, we're interested in what it's pointing at, that there's something interesting over there. So dogs are pretty darn clever. Not entirely unsurprising because we have selectively bred them to be useful, so they should be smart. And it's not to say that wolves aren't smart. I mean, I've been out feeding the foxes just now, about an hour ago, about a couple of hours ago, and the foxes are pretty smart too. They will play games and they will hide, and they understand some things that we do. But it's just quite amazing how clever dogs are. Anyway, just had to bring up the dog thing because the wolf staring at me, kind of making sure I said something nice about dogs. Canines, anyway. So Willow's question is still not forthcoming. I will wait another minute, and then I might go and have my bacon sandwich. We may never know what the question was. Anything else I could talk about? From the video, preferably. Oh yeah, sinking chimps. That's always an interesting one. So I always thought that sinks were absolutely not buoyant, and it turns out that's mostly true. Although apparently they managed to teach chimps to swim in captivity, such that they enjoy doing it, which is great. But they do have to swim actively, otherwise they will sink. It seems so. Their paddling is what's keeping their head above water, and if they stop, they will just sink. They apparently, this is kind of adorable. The chimps prefer to do breaststroke. Whereas a lot of other animals do sort of, kind of unsurprisingly, a doggy paddle style stroke. I've seen cats swimming; they do doggy paddle, which must be very embarrassing for a cat. But yeah, most animals do a sort of doggy paddle thing. But chimps do breaststroke, which is oddly reminiscent of how humans tend to swim. Even if when very young babies are put into water and they're left to swim, they tend to do a breaststrokey type thing as well. They're not doing massive crawl up and down, doing lengths up and down the pool straight away. So there's suggestions that there's some links between how we developed swimming as an animal, because we're not brilliant swimmers either, and how the chimps have learnt to swim in the most successful way they can, given their almost complete lack of buoyancy. But anyway, that's about all I can remember on this subject of chimps and swimming, and they do tend to just sink, which is why that play in the water was quite so remarkable. Okay, I can see no question forthcoming from Willow. So I may have to terminate this live stream. I'm going to do my typical leap forward towards the screen in an inelegant way, just so I can terminate the broadcast, and then I will say goodnight to everyone and eat some food. I have not quite decided which one of the next videos I'm going to show. It will be a Horizon video next, I suspect. Well, I know because I haven't got that many of anything else. I have a few. And I have got about 3 or 4 that I did some preliminary editing on to get them ready for cutting together in the form you saw today with the one I just put up. But I'm not quite sure which one to do. I've got a few choices. I think I've got Phage, the virus that cures, set up and ready to go, which is quite an interesting one about how you can use viruses to cure. And it's quite an old one. And you might get the impression that we're just ready to have viruses curing stuff, but it's surprising how long it's taking us to get viruses as an effective vessel or medium to get cures delivered. We're still not really there. They're on the cusp, but I will do some more research before I actually put the thing out on that. I wonder what else I've got ready. The virus that cures, and there was definitely one other one that's gone out of my head. I think it was a black holes one I have as well, and it has been a while since I did a physicsy one, so I might do that one next. I could just stare to my right and probably see what I've put on here, or it's on the wrong computer. Let's see if I can find out. Videos. La la la, la la la. Oh, hello. Well, I definitely have the phage one lined up, that's for sure. If I have any others ready, I will let you know. But it might be the phage is the next one. Ah, hello. Oh, hello. Hey, Doc. Sorry, I'm not having a lot of success tonight. For what it's worth, I thought it was a very interesting program, and I love to talk about it. Just caught me a bad time. Son of a red shirt, not a problem. I think everyone's having a bad time this evening in terms of their availability, and they're just being distracted by other things. So again, thank you for being there for the video, Son of a red shirt. That was. I'm glad I distracted you long enough to stay and watch most of the video. But since there are no more questions coming, there's not much more point me spinning plates and juggling stuff. I will terminate unless somebody says something to the contrary in about 30 seconds. Recent subscribe to your channel. Thank you. Can't remember where I met you before. Going to check my notifications and see why I didn't get it until late. You got late notification. Pfft, typical YouTube, I think is what we're supposed to say at this point. Yeah. So yeah, probably virus that cures for the next one, but I did have another couple lined up. It's just they're actually on that laptop I'm recording me with right now, which makes it a little bit more awkward to actually check what they were. So watch this space. And on that note, I hope you all have a good evening. And I'm now going to inelegantly leap towards camera, my face filling it up like a massive thing. And good night.